Yes, guys, what's going on? This is the 5 Yard Pass podcast with me, Suddy, and this is Sham. And we'll be talking about the weekend's action. Very eventful weekend. A couple of talking points, I guess, is it is what it is. Man City basically champions elect, and Liverpool limped out. I think if the Klopp did he's had a tough kind of few weeks that we didn't know about with his mum passing away, and you could see the emotion it's kind of poured out at the very end there. And he said he's out of the title race. I think Ollie said everything but the fact that United are out, and it's cleared the way for Man City. And a couple of other exciting games in Arsenal beating Leeds and Fulham beating Everton as well. So lots to talk about, Sham. How's it going, and what do you think of the weekend? Just to sum it up before we get into the details.
Yeah, crazy weekend. I think City and Leicester, are the only sort of sides that won their games. Like a lot of teams have dropped points. And like you said, it solidified a lot of that. If United in second have almost pretty much considered the title race, then you think it's one team to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kick off, man, with the big shocker. A big shocker because the way the win happened. Liverpool 3, Leicester 3, Liverpool 1. Jamie Vardy, James Maddison, Harvey Barnes putting 3 away in about 6 minutes, I think it was, after Salah scored a penalty. It was insane. Like I got into the game a bit late. I had a few things to do, but you texted me going nuts. I was like, oh, Sean, please don't tell me the score. I was about to watch the replay, but I couldn't help myself. But look, it's very hard to criticize Liverpool at this point because it's all kind of caught up to them. It's like everything's caught up to them. It's nothing to do with the club, something to do with the team mentality, nothing like that. Everything's just caught up. They started well without their defenders when Van Dijk was injured, and slowly but surely, it's all caught up. And I think it's kind of laid to bear with their fit players making errors because they're tired mentally, emotionally, physically. They're all tired, and arguably one of the most reliable players the last 3 years, showing cracks. I mean, that's the perspective I'm guessing you have as well.
Yeah. It was. I think we all thought that Liverpool would struggle at some point without the two main centre backs, but I think they've shown how important the two are to the system, and Gomez as well. Everybody's talking about Van Dijk's out. Well, Gomez is out as well, and I think that he's had not as big an influence as Van Dijk, but like you can still see very important. He's strong, he's fast, he can deal with those one-on-ones. Liverpool can sort of send everybody else forward and have those two at the back. So losing both of them, and we're really seeing the impact now, and particularly given the nature of the season, there's not really been a lot of time for them to sort of train and get that new sort of solidity back. I think this is the 13th different centre-back combination Liverpool used this season in 24 games, which is astounding, really. And you could see in a way that it was almost as if, while Leicester did have some chances and Vardy probably could have scored more, the game was played to the point where Salah scored that goal, and it was a great assist by Firmino, like really sort of five-a-side stuff, like just they called it the double back heel. I like that. It was the way they described it, and Salah's taken that early shot. And to that point, even though Leicester had a few moments here and there, you felt that the game was played on Liverpool's terms, and I almost thought, well, here we go again. When Salah scored, you just thought it was all sort of done, and like that was the way that the game was going to go. The thing was, when the way that I think it was Barnes who won the free kick for Leicester's first goal, and then when they were going through the whole VAR penalty thing, you suddenly thought, oh, this might be interesting if Leicester can get one in. But the way that Liverpool fell apart, it showed that even though they're playing a large part of the game on their own terms, that they were still brittle, and they were still susceptible to falling apart the way that they did. That set piece, it's a difficult set piece to defend, but they still didn't defend it particularly well. And then obviously Alisson's made his gaff with Kabach. Either Alisson's not calling for that, or Kabach is there's just unfamiliarity between the two. It's the first time they've played together. But you think someone like Alisson, who plays the way he does, is coming out and calling for it, and particularly in an empty stadium. I don't really know how that's happened, but you knew that there was some very serious trouble. The way that it fell apart was actually quite alarming, just given that Liverpool are the defending champions and they've won a lot of games through sheer mental force of will, and it kind of backfired on them on yesterday in
Yeah.
terms of that brittleness just showing.
Yeah, and I think it's I think we've been called. I think many people have been calling for it for weeks now. Nothing seems to be working for Liverpool, and I think it's time to gamble a bit more, put Henderson back into the midfield, because it seems like what you've got. It's almost like what have you got to lose right now. I just want to point out really quickly, Leicester were worth their money, man. And Leicester, we know they're established themselves as a top four club, a Champions League going club at least. You expect them to get into the top four every year or battle it for the top four. They came to play, and I think Ndidi is kind of that not kind of he's in many ways a better version of Kante, a more kind of poised, cultured version of Kante with a bit of better passing. Man of the match for me. He had an assist, absolutely immense, and it's kind of laid to bear. It's kind of that contrast against Thiago, who everyone's criticizing. Again, amazing footballer, but just not doesn't seem to fit into what Liverpool wants to do in this, at this moment in time. And I do feel bad for Alisson. So excuse me, I do feel bad for Thiago because it's the way Pogba was kind of blamed. Alexis Sanchez and the Pogba as well blamed for that bad time that they're going through. I feel really bad for Thiago because Liverpool are going through at the minute what United went through in the year 2013, 2014, where that refractory bad performances from such a good season, you almost feel it harder. The criticism comes up harder. It's more emotional. It's more thorny. And I think he's the kind of guy who's getting all of it. Alisson's probably going to get in the next few weeks because of what he's done. But it's a shame because none of that will help. I would love to see Thiago play good football, man. Creating, assisting, seeing those runs, because you see Mane and Salah making those runs, but Thiago doesn't see it as much as, let's say, if Henderson will. Klopp needs to put Henderson back in the midfield and just hope. It's not even a trust; it's a hope that Kabach and Davies or Phillips. Is it Davies, the new fella? Yeah, Ben Davies does a good job.
Well, he got injured, didn't he? Apparently, he's
injured. He did, man. Like it's so bizarre. It's bizarre. I don't even know what to say. Like this guy comes in, gets injured. It's just bad luck. And Liverpool, I feel bad. It's come to that point where like it was fun at first. It really was because I genuinely thought they'll come back and kind of push for second, maybe push for the title. But it's got to a point where it's I don't know, man. It's sad to see. And in that just kind of they linked out the title race as kind of it is sad to see, and they linked out title race, but it puts Leicester in a good position to cement themselves as second. I think any club coming second this season really poises themselves to do. Any club that is not United coming second would really be happy with that position. I think United would be the only club going. We probably could have challenged for it a bit better, and second seems a bit of a waste because the teams, the points they've dropped against Sheffield, Everton, now West Brom, shouldn't have been dropped points, and we'll get to that in a second. But Leicester, they've done well for themselves this season, man. And Brendan Rodgers, huge credit because he's changed the whole club, as we've said many times. In their third position, equal points with United. I think they've scored a fair few goals. Yeah, second, third top scorer, fourth top scorers in the league. Very good defense, and they've brought in and kind of transformed a few players, especially in Madison and Didi. And fuck me, Jamie Vardy's still kicking about, man. Unbelievable. He had a hernia operation 3 weeks ago, Sham.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're right with Thiago. I think they'd like to play him higher up the pitch, but without Henderson and Fabinho, he's pretty much their best number 6. And you can see the way that he looks around on the pitch. He looks wide, doesn't look forward, whereas the midfield normally just look forward very much. So he's knocking balls in the wide spaces. It's not really the way they want to play. They want to get the ball as forward as they can, as quickly as they can. That's how that midfield operates for Liverpool. So
why playing? Why would that? So let's take his natural instincts, as you're saying. How does that play into him playing at number 10 better?
I think that Liverpool, if they play him, I think he's kind of coming in for Wijnaldum. So if they had all their players available, you'd probably have Fabinho in the 6 with Henderson and Alcantara, and have him just a bit higher up the pitch with a bit more security behind him, and then doing the things that he does. Not that he's necessarily in that best 11. I think Wijnaldum is, but Wijnaldum seems to be on his way out. But I think the way it doesn't allow, because they're not moving the ball as forward as quickly as they'd like, it does allow teams to get shape. It does mean if he's knocking the ball wide and the fullbacks aren't getting as high as they did last year, that so Salah and Mane have to take deeper, wider positions to get the ball. So it doesn't allow them to go at the defense the way that they normally do. And Salah seems to be playing almost as a almost a bit like Cristiano Ronaldo when he was at Madrid, sort of playing on the left and then running into the 9 position. Salah seems to be doing a
Yeah,
lot more of that, so it disrupts that
yeah,
sort of natural flow of
yeah,
the thing that he's doing. And Thiago gave away the free kick for that first goal as well. So
yeah.
he's kind of, it's unfortunate for him. I don't think he's played badly, but he's not necessarily played at that standard that they've needed him. That standard that
Mm,
he's been fairly or unfairly measured against.
yeah,
And Leicester, yeah, like I think Barnes adds a lot of threat to Leicester. He adds a goal scoring threat that they seem to be sort of relying on Vardy and then everybody else, but he provides this sort of second option for scoring goals. He had a really
yeah,
good third goal. He won the free kick
yeah,
for the first goal, and to have a youth player come through and have that impact.
yeah.
The telecast I was watching. They had Gareth Southgate in the watching the game, and so
Hmm.
they're saying, "Oh, Southgate's there. He's there to see Madison and Barnes." And you're just thinking, "Oh, Barnes! All of a sudden he's coming to England
Yeah, yeah,
calculations." So
yeah.
good of him. And
Absolutely.
I think they've got a bit more. Like you talked about Ndidi, and I agree with everything. But I just add that I think Madison and Tielemans add that ability to control and retain the ball as well, and they're
Hmm.
adding lot more of that punch. Like Leicester's in their title-winning season, they had Drinkwater and Kante. So if you compare Drinkwater and Kante to Tielemans, Madison, and Ndidi, I mean that's a massive upgrade in the center of midfield.
Yeah. And what I guess what Rodgers does to his players, he gives them a certain level of IQ, and I guess he couldn't do that at Liverpool too much because he had Gerrard, who how much IQ you going to add into Gerrard? This is almost
It
prime
was the
to
end
win
of
it.
his career, wasn't it? Yeah.
And also, he was playing a quarterback role, and he played it beautifully. Do you remember that season? He was basically sitting in like a 6 and just dishing balls out to Suarez.
Yeah.
And I think Rodgers has kind of come to his, has kind of arrived at a place where he can develop players. He can imprint, these 22, 22. Andy, he's only 24, man. That's insane. So he can kind of imprint his IQ onto players. And Rodgers has that kind of good manager's brain, never really a good player. So it's a juicy season, and I'll just kind of let's just have a look before we get into the next game there. Leicester going to Europe. They're going to Slavia Praha, Villa, Slavia Praha, Arsenal. So a mix of games. Brighton and then Sheffield. So, and then they have United in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, which is going to be tough, obviously, for them. So, could they win the FA
They
Cup?
seem to have
I
more
think,
belief about themselves than United. They're only behind United on goal difference now. They seem to have more belief than Manchester United. They could
yeah,
win the title.
no one expects them
I
to.
don't know if they're aiming for it, but they seem to have more belief than United in general about the way that they.
I agree with that. I think you said this. I think this exact verbatim. You said Leicester probably the only team playing to their potential, and this was just before Man City was kind of emerging to what they are now. Leicester still they have every right to have the belief because they are playing exactly the level they should be. I don't think they're overachieving or underachieving for that matter. So yeah, look, that unfortunately is Liverpool in a very, very unstable position. Fourth place, a point in front of Chelsea, a point behind in front of West Ham, excuse me, and three in front of Everton, all of which could overtake them. No, actually, no. Everton probably won't, but yeah, Liverpool dropped down to 7th at the end of all this, which not ideal for Klopp, but you know, uh, no one's calling for Klopp's head, but they will be looking to get good rehab into these 8-9 players who are missing, and they'll come back stronger next year without a doubt. I think this is kind of the end of Liverpool's Premier League season in terms of every game from now on will be get the points, look at Europe, get the points, look at Europe, and go from there.
Yeah, Champions League becomes massive for Liverpool, I think, this season.
Absolutely, and
And
yeah,
I think it might even be their best chance to get. I know they're fourth, but it might even be their best chance to get into the Champions League is to win the
yeah,
damn thing. But the yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't think he's in any trouble. He's got enough credit in the bank, and I think that the
big
fact
time.
that there's so many players injured will
Yeah,
make sure the pressure's not on him. But he'll have to start well next season, definitely.
yeah.
And it'd be interesting to
All right,
see how he approaches the rest of the season.
yeah. All right, we'll move on to West Brom versus United. Disappointing game for United. They've limped out as well. Unfortunately for me in my Hawaiian shirt, you won't be seeing that till next season. But they limped out as quickly as they kind of ran in, as slowly as they ran in, you could say. Even last few games, we didn't put a video out for their last game against Everton, but they've just lacked a little bit of something, lacked a bit of character. Today, arguably, some of the decisions were against United as well. I feel they should have had a few VAR reviews. I'm not going to go on about it, but we'll talk about the moments of the game. United started terribly, conceding in the 3rd minute off a header, arguably a foul, but Lindelof does very poorly anyway. And then Fernandez puts a beautiful volley into the top corner off a short cross, who's been doing very well lately. And I guess that's the problem, Sham. Like United seem to have these parts which do better at different times, and they just don't seem to gel. And that's kind of the story of United's post-Fergie era, where you have these. Last season they excelled in defense. A couple of seasons ago they excelled with Zlatan up front. Nothing ever seems to come together at one point. I guess that's what they'll be looking for next season. But in saying that, they will they still can go to win the Europa League and can go to win the FA Cup, which I don't see why they shouldn't. It could kick on to something more next season, but that just seems to be the problem for United.
The team is good enough, I think, to win either one of those trophies. I don't think they'll win both the FA Cup and UEFA Cup.
Yeah,
They should be trying to win at least one of them.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It does seem to be an issue of character and bottle as opposed to anything else. That West Brom striker, I think it was his debut. He come from Galatasaray. I forgot his name. Digne, I think it was. And he had a couple like that where he was all over Lindelof. To me, it actually looked like a foul, but I remember seeing a halftime. I had Glenn Hoddle on my telecast, and he goes, "That was a good old-fashioned centre-forward goal," And I thought, you know what, he's right. It was very much just like
fair enough,
competing, but Lindelof didn't really compete. He got beaten from the front position for a header at the near post, and that's not really good enough for a team that had title.
I just pause you there. It almost felt as if Lindelof was looking for the foul, was hoping that the guy's pulling me up, it's going to be a foul, and that's not what you want, Yeah, go on. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and United didn't West Brom did start well. It was only the 2nd minute they scored, but it did seem to give them something, and they were really like their sharpness, their aggression, the way that they kept shape. They played really well. They were easily worth a point. I don't think they were worth 3, but they were definitely worth a point in that game. It was very much deserved, and that sort of Allardyce blueprint of being hard to beat. The way you avoid relegation is essentially you first become hard to beat, which you can see they've got results against Liverpool, they've got results against United. They seem to play that defensive structure very well. They'll need to at some point kick on if they want to avoid relegation. I think they're 10 points from safety, so it is in theory a bridge too far. But you sometimes see a team that looks safe fall and then a team that looks relegated come up. So they'll have to rely on that. But the reality is, they were well worth a point. United were very poor, I thought, in large parts of the game. I thought the last 10 minutes of the first half and the first sort of 10 minutes of the second half, they looked very good. And if they played that way for 90 minutes, they would have won. But they didn't really create a lot. It was interesting tactically to see a few times because they had sort of the 2 centre-backs with the full-backs pushing up and then the Fred and McTominay in defensive midfield. So at times, Maguire and Lindelof sort of ran past those two and tried creating a different option. You could actually see it had a bit of an effect.
Maguire
not prepared for the 2 centre backs, not at the same time. It was always one of them with the ball, just running at them. And I did like that United were trying, I think, deliberately trying something different to break down the wall because no one in a West Brom 5-4-1 is planning for Lindelof and Maguire to start running at them. So I did like that. Bruno's goal was really good. Shaw did well with that. But a bit susceptible defensively still. And I think there's this whole sort of isn't he good enough in that role? Sure. And attacking wise, he looked very good, and most of that game was spent attacking. But the goal they conceded was across from that side, and I do think he does have issues at times with his defensive positioning. And you could see, he set up one goal, but at the same time, the goal that they conceded came from his wing, and he's as much as he may or may not be involved there, you do have to hold your hand up if the ball's coming from that side. Teams do attack down United's left side. You don't see a lot of teams scoring goals from the right, So Bissaka's got that sort of sorted. Shaw still needs to work a bit more defensively in his game.
I'll just add the biggest criticism for me is kind of explores a larger point where I think United need a more intelligent guy next to McTominay. I think Fred. I've kind of been Fred's fan for a long time. I think he's been hard done by. I think he's a very good player. I think he should get a lot of football, but I think the difference a type of player like a Rodri or Fernandinho or a Jordan Henderson makes is immeasurable. I think that's perhaps someone United should go for on the transfer market. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
Play that role?
yeah, perhaps Van de Beek could evolve into that role. And if he is, he is. I'm just saying they need someone who moves the ball a bit quicker, who makes less mistakes, who isn't as one dimensional. When I say Fred's one dimensional, it's scary how bad his right foot is for a guy who gets paid 120 grand a week. you know, and that does it. It honestly, the amount of mistakes, the little tackles, the little fouls he makes because he's in the wrong position, wrong body angle. It's a little bit concerning that. I know it's a very kind of silly thing to talk about, but it does make a big difference when you are a player with a bit more intelligence, a bit more two-footed in that position. Why I like McTominay more, and he's obviously homegrown, but you can see there's a bit of fervor, a bit of grit about him. There's a little bit of Steven, you could sprinkle a bit of Steven Gerrard in him, almost a bit of Roy Keane in him, a bit of Scholes. So I can see him being at the club for a long time. I think everyone can, but I think Donny has to evolve quick, or they have to get a better player. These
Yeah,
sort of games were always going to show, these sort of games that kind of separate the men from the boys, the West Broms who decide to sit with 12 men behind the ball, and United just not ready for it. We got, as United fans, got swept away a little bit about a month ago, and I think we were brought back down to earth. I think Ollie is the man for the job. I think he clearly is the man for the job, but just not there, and that's okay. It takes most managers who try to build a club multiple years to do it the right way, and Klopp's done it the right way. Fergie did it the right way.
Klopp took 4 years. Fergie took 4 years. Guardiola
Yeah,
was quicker,
most
but the club
that
put a lot of things in place for Guardiola before he arrived.
and that's the problem, I guess, because most managers win it in their first 1 or 2 years. Who've won? If you think about it, most managers who've won the Premier League won in their first 2 years,
Yeah, Wenger, Mourinho,
except
Guardiola. Yeah,
Wenger, Mourinho, Conte. You name it. Ancelotti, blah blah blah. Right? Only two managers have really built a team to win it, and that proves sustenance. That proves it's a sustaining kind of mentality, and I think Ollie's got the backing and all that kind of stuff. So to finish off, I mean, the Jadon Sancho transfer, apparently Dortmund are only asking for 50 million now. That's the kind of news in the grapevine. At least I was
50.
watching Fabrizio Romano. Yeah, 5-0. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, if he gets him, that's the best piece of
If
business
United get him
Wood
for
has done.
50, I would make a bid for him right now if they're
Yeah,
offering 50. Yeah,
yeah, exactly,
if his
absolutely.
catch, just take it. United were trying to do what 60, 70 up front, and Dortmund was saying no. Another
Up to 100. Yeah, it was like
yeah,
60 with
up to
40
with a
add-ons.
view to 108 million pounds or something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, look, if they get it for that, get him. I think United need leadership. That defensively they just show that they need someone just to lock things into the back. Jaap Stam was a player I think that provided a lot of leadership that people didn't seem to rate because he was so strong and so fast. But he did add leadership to that team. That sort of type of player would be someone perfect for United. And I agree with what you're saying on Fred. I do think there's a time and place for Fred, but he shouldn't really be playing as often as he is. He's starting to get caught out a bit. His energy is great, and I think I saw some stat that McTominay I think got the most interceptions at United, and Fred's got the most tackles. So they seem to complement each other in that way. But the reality is, United need to fix that because I think having those two there doesn't seem to. They're sort of both acting as one and a half players. And with Bruno sort of covering the rest, it seems to work. But to really kick on and to really take that next step, they do need someone a bit better. And I think the ideal is Pogba, but it looks like Pogba's on his way out. Pressure comes at Van der Beek. I think Van der Beek's probably Pogba's replacement. You can have you can take your 6 months to figure out how to play in England. He's not even been in the country for 6 months. I think he came very late in September, didn't he, to join the club?
Yeah, it was very much late in the
It
window.
does
Yeah.
take you time to get used to it. I did like the fact that Ollie went to him. I actually was quite happy to see Ollie. Okay, Ollie's put some faith in Van der Beek in that situation. It didn't quite work, but you could see Van der Beek was doing different things.
Yeah.
And I did see some potential for a McTominay Van der Beek partnership, and I would like to see more of that. I do think United need another option up front as well, because when Martial came off and Greenwood came on, it was kind of like, well, that's all we can do. I did think Cavani ran out of legs a bit towards the end, playing a lot more football than you probably expected. Just to have another option there, because like you look at United always had 4 strikers for 2 roles in the past. Now we've got sort of 4 strikers for 3 roles. Like we need that extra body up front.
And to add to that, I think Rashford been on the right the last few weeks. He's been poor. He's been very poor. He's got a few goals here and there, but he's generally been poor. He's missed a few chances.
Overall, not great.
Yeah, his decision making, his passing to Cavani, decision making for Martial has been poor. when you want to accommodate those three together, Cavani, Martial, and Rashford, unfortunately, Rashford gets sacrificed in terms of playing out of position. Um, in saying that, his crossing was quite good today. He was putting the ball in dangerous positions, but he just no one was getting the end of it. But his shooting has been poor. He got a few chances. He had a few chances against Sheffield as well, where he kind of spun around in the box a little bit, Jimmy someone, and just didn't get a shot out completely. So yeah, just little things to United's game. I think most United fans wouldn't be unhappy on the whole of what United are doing. So I'd be. It's very hard to pick bad moments from this game because United did a lot to not win, if that makes sense. So they did a lot, but they were very unlucky. So I can't criticize too much.
I wasn't. You mentioned the point about the refereeing. I wasn't happy with the refereeing. I'm not someone who carries on about the ref, but I just thought the refereeing was poor and it did adversely affect United.
It was very poor today. Yeah.
So I think
and it does. I guess
probably come down to getting that sort of centre back / leader, which hopefully fixes the problem with defensive midfield. And then a winger. Maybe they need a defensive midfielder as well. And then DD type player perhaps.
Yeah. If I had to pick a defensive type next to Maguire, take out the best in the world. I mean, anyone on the top of your head? Vestergaard, maybe.
I thought Upamecano would be great, but he's going to Bayern, so he's out.
I mean,
so that type of player, someone who's who's quick off the quick first step, and also got sort of a bit of leadership about him. Rio Ferdinand would be the ideal one. That type of player.
Just to talk about
there's a dearth of those types of players available, just in general centre backs, and they're
you want a fast black guy. That's what you want, Sean.
Husky, Husky, get him.
Just to talk about really quickly the Upamecano transfer. Excuse me. It's so interesting because it's like Bayern do this every year. It's just mad. Imagine if Man City just go like, "Oh, Fernandes, come, Salah, come," and that's what Bayern do. And it's just like, I don't get it. I don't get the power. I don't understand the kind of pull they have. And it's just kind of every year the clubs just like. The clubs who go on the end of it. It's mostly Dortmund for the last few years. Now it's
the Bundesliga didn't exist until the mid '60s. It's only been around for 55 years. Bayern have won 31 titles.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's it's what?
Very unsurprising.
I get Celtic and Rangers. You guys win about half of them between you, but we're gonna win more than half.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Let's move on then. I think about that transfer. I genuinely thought Upamecano was coming to United, but of course he's the top defender in the.
I wonder I'm dreaming here, but if United got Alaba, maybe if United threw the kitchen sink at Alaba, maybe he'd be perfect.
Yeah, Alaba seems to be. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just getting up this next game now. Alaba seems to be going to Madrid apparently. I don't want to speculate too much on that.
With Ramos and Varane, they've been talk about Varane coming to United. Ramos, I don't think is the right player for United, even though he's great.
Varane would
leadership, but not
be very good.
And I don't think it's a long-term solution. But if somehow it worked out that Alaba went to Madrid and then Ramos would probably stay, I think Ramos has earned the right to play his career out there, even if he starts getting.
I gotta say, historically, world-class stopgap players are not ideal, and I don't like world-class stopgap players in terms of Zlatan, Falcao, Di Maria. All these it's not worked for United. They may work for other clubs. They don't work for United because it stifles someone else's performance. For some reason, it stifles the general culture of the club. Zlatan and Cavani seem to be an exception, but United don't necessarily have to go and get world-class personalities, but they need to get world-class talent. So. I hope they kind of
Laurent Blanc didn't work out for United, even though they were.
Laurent Blanc arguably kind of did in terms of getting Ferdinand up to speed a little bit, but yeah, you're right. Bartes didn't really work out. The list goes on. Henrik Larsson was another exception, perhaps, but yeah, largely speaking, I don't think it works out for United. So yeah, just to summarize, that leaves United second on goal difference to Leicester. I'm surprised. We've got very lucky. United got very, very lucky. Make no mistake about it that they're in this position, considering the last 3 games have been bad performances, bit of unlucky results, bit of unlucky referee. Overall, we've dropped 3. What was that? 3-6, so 5 points in the last 3 games. So
No,
we'll wait and see.
I think whether United season was a success or not was going to come down to they'll never. I don't think they were ever realistically going to win, but it will come down to how far they are behind City at the end. They were 15 points last season, and I get that City are playing at a higher level, but you'd want United to not drop too many more points, because if they do, that's where pressure starts coming in. Because I do believe that Liverpool, with their best 11, will push again next year. I do think City have it. They've clicked in the gear now. I think that if they're playing at this level the whole season, it'll be very difficult to stop. United need to, as much as they're thinking, okay, we're probably not going to win the title this year. The gap between them and City is something they need to keep an eye on and make sure that doesn't grow too wide.
Next season as well, Sean, just to point out before we get to the last thing, next season is going to be interesting because you have the Euros and the World Cup, and things in the next 2 or 3 years are going to be quite whacked off. So in terms of fatigue, and COVID's one thing, and the fatigue of players will be taken into account, and teams like Liverpool will already be preparing in some sense in terms of staff, in terms of programs of how they're going to make sure these players. Liverpool never want to do this, never want to get into the situation again, and I guarantee they'll make sure they don't get into it as best they can. Okay, so we'll get on to what I thought was a very exciting game. Arsenal 4, Leicester 2, Leeds 2, excuse me. Hat-trick for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. 2 goals, 3 goals and an assist, I believe he got. Am I right to say that? No assist for him. Emil Smith-Rowe getting an assist for the last goal for Arsenal. And then Leeds coming back with 2 goals. Once again, Leeds bring the goods, don't they, Sean? Minimum 3 goals every game.
Yeah. They either go hard or go home, don't they, Leeds? They got that casino who just doubles up on black every time,
They have,
it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. Yeah.
Really quick. They have 40 goals scored, 42 against.
Wow, that's huge. No, look, Arsenal did play really well. I think having Aubameyang, it just gave them a bit more sharpness. He's been out for a while with family issues and stuff, and I don't know if he was injured or not, but he was out for a while with family issues at least. He just looked sharp, and I think that he is someone who carries that team. I think they have a bit more of a spring in their step when he scored, and the way that the players came to him when he got that first goal in particular, you could see that they were all supporting him, and they were well worth that lead. Leeds can look very fragile in defence. It's not something they like doing, but they have had games this season when they lose hard, and it looked pretty scary at 4-0. I think it was 47th minute or something. They're 4-0 up. The Leeds came back really well, and gave themselves. It was a little bit of pride more than anything else, but they did play well to get back in that game, because that could have been like a 7-0 type game very easy.
We've seen those before.
But it was great to see Aubameyang play well, because he has not had a great season. He's got his good contract, but he hasn't really played well since then, and that was pretty much the first couple of weeks of the season.
For me, I think this might be, with what they have now, this might be Arsenal's best 11, if not best 10 players. With a plus or minus here and there. I like the front four of Odegaard, Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Aubameyang as a 3-1. And Odegaard and Smith-Rowe, they kind of interchange between, you could argue the three of them interchange a lot, because they're all quite quick thinking players, fast feet. They like the ball at feet. They like to run, especially Saka likes to run with the ball as well. It's an interesting three that you feel could flourish well with Aubameyang in front. And this game aside, we'll see in the next game. But I think that's a good. And with Cabellos and Saka sitting behind them, it's good balance. I like it. I like the way they look, and they look like they have purpose and vigor, and they look confident going forward. And unfortunately, this Arsenal team, they play their next game, they could lose 2-0 and wouldn't be surprised. They need to get constant, to get progression, consistency. Need to be focused for the next few weeks to get string a few results. They're still 10th, man. Make no mistake about it. They're still 10th, and they could go 11th if Leeds win their game in hand. They're not in a good position. So It's nice to see them win. Nice to see them play good football, but they still need. There's so far to go, Sean.
You'd like to see him go on a bit of a run like Chelsea, wouldn't you? In terms
Well,
of
they did. They
Chelsea
did it.
went from about what ninth to fifth very
Yeah,
quickly. So if
can go to
Arsenal can
fourth
do
tomorrow.
that,
Yeah,
because they were 14th and then now they've come back up to 10th, or they're
yeah,
15th or 16th, weren't they? Like they're really low
yeah,
down, and they went on
yeah,
that run, and then they had a couple of
yeah.
results go against them. So yeah, they do have the cap. I do think that, like you said, that there was something about them in terms of that it just seemed to fit better.
Mm-hmm,
Fortunately for Lacazette, it might mean he doesn't fit into their best 11.
mm-hmm,
But I think there's definitely something there for them to work with. But like you
mm-hmm.
said, they just need to go and get some results and get on a bit of a roll. Momentum is going to be very important in this season. Without a lot of players doing recovery, not necessarily having the training time to work through things. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
yeah. And just to touch on Leeds a little bit, chaotic side, but I think as a whole, I think they've done well. I think if they would have, if the league would have stopped today, and they do come 11th, let's say, I think they've done themselves a service to not even put their name in the hat for relegation. They were never in the discussion. Perhaps defensive issues had to be sorted out, but I think they've come in and they've kind of lived up to their name a little bit. 40 and 42, for and against. Is Yeah, it's mad football, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the nature of it as well. Like there's obviously that Liverpool game they lost 4-3 in the first game of the season, but a lot of the games have been either big wins or big losses. I think they've only got 2 draws the whole season. Like they go
Seriously,
hard. Yeah,
just
I'll
just
double check the
just.
table, but I think it's something like 2 losses.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
actually, I
sorry.
have it right here. Um, yeah, only 2 draws all season. Yeah,
Yeah, so they go hard to go home, and they've won games 5-0, they've lost games 5-0.
just
4 seems an understatement compared to it.
I actually I wanted to ask you. You remember Leeds from the early 2000s when they were a force? You call them a top four side. How does that in philosophy compare to what Leeds are today?
How did that team play and how they go about it?
Yeah, if you had to kind of quickly, kind of like summarize that team, but versus are they two different philosophies, or do you think it's a very similar philosophy
Oh, they've quite.
as a
I
team,
mean,
not
that
as a
that
club?
was David O'Leary's team. It was a very British team. They thought they had Olivier Dacour playing sort of defensive midfielder, and they thought he
Hmm.
was exotic because he was this black French guy. But it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a whole bunch of
He went
uh,
to Madrid,
very
and he went
British
to Madrid in
players
the
with
end,
a
didn't
couple
he?
of Australians in there. Sorry.
He went to Madrid, didn't he, for a while? Or
Yeah, he did.
Roma? It was Roma and Madrid, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's a weird one. That one, that guy.
but
Yeah,
that was very sort of four at the back, quite sort of strong in that. They were a bit more defensive in the
yeah,
centre of midfield. They had Batty and Dacour, and then Boyer
yeah,
and Huel were very important in the wide positions.
yeah. Right.
And they played quite. It was British football, but it had a bit more of a sparkle about it. And Lee Boyer was immense at that time. Harry Kuehl played
Yeah.
really well. I think I, I I always think that the season after they got into the Champions League and they made the semi-finals, Harry Kuehl got injured quite badly at the end of that season where they got into the Champions League spots, and I think that impacted their ability to repeatedly make the Champions League. Um,
Hmm.
and that you could argue that his injuries maybe affected the whole club. Not that I'm putting blame on him or anything, but Leeds' weakness was really a bit like United now, that inability to break down teams that put a low block. They just couldn't
Hmm.
figure out a way to do it. So teams eventually just sort of put a low block against them and they just couldn't figure out how to beat them. And then
Hmm.
wins started turning into draws and they started sitting lower on the table than perhaps a team with that ability should have. And then I think the club lost confidence from
I mean, the
that.
club lost
It was quite sort of a British style, but it did have very much that emphasis that the two centre midfielders were quite defensive and the wingers were quite proactive. And
yeah.
even they had a very good left back, Ian Hart, who also took set
Ian
pieces.
Hart. Yeah, yeah.
So they did
He's
like
Irish. Yeah.
attacking from wider positions and having
Mm.
guys like Alan Smith and Mark Viduka who could win headers, and Viduka was good. Viduka always played really well with his back to goal as well, and the players could run at him a bit. Um,
Yeah.
so it was that sort of
But
style.
what's
Leeds now is really it's a lot more fluid and dynamic than that, and
hmm
a lot more interchanging and things like that.
hmm yeah.
Bamford's a very different player to Viduka, but he's a good number 9. So
Yeah. I mean, if you talk about Ian Hart, just to kind of elaborate there was a golden generation of Irish players: Dennis Elway, Ian Hart, Roy Keane, Robbie Keane. I mean, Shay Given,
yeah.
Richard Dunn, you name it, man. I mean, everyone here still talks about Ian Cork, still talk about that generation of Irish players, and just to they're terrible to beat
When I
now.
played Football Manager back then, I used to like try and manage them as like an
Yeah.
international team. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like the Belgium in some way of a bit of a watered down Belgium where you feel making the
Yeah, Belgium
semi-final
light.
wasn't out of
Yeah.
reach. Yeah, but I guess you'd have more hope Belgium winning the World Cup or winning the European Cup. But it was a great side. Just thinking about Ian Hart, I very clearly remember a game United played Leeds 2001, I believe it was. The goal was 4-3, and Ian Hart scored a cracker of a free kick with his left foot. Like Bartes just stood there and watched it go in. It's a good player, Ian Hart, very good player. Um, so yeah, I mean, crazy weekend, Sham. I mean that. I'm just going to look at the table real quick, and it's Could you get the fixtures up for this weekend if you don't mind? Let's have a look at what's exciting.
Well, they got West Ham and Sheffield, and then Chelsea, Newcastle still to go. What do you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about
that's
those games?
right. And uh, West Ham. Could you repeat that? Sorry.
West Ham and Sheffield United at West Ham.
Yeah, I
And
mean
then,
West Ham. We talked to death for 2 weeks about them. I mean, we basically covered everything. I think. Sorry, one second. Yeah, so I think they've done really well this season, and I think you're gonna get games like these where West Ham are looking to put 3, 4, 5 past the likes of Sheffield, and just build confidence. And I don't see Sheffield not winning this game. Um, sorry, excuse me, I don't see West Ham not winning this game. However, I it's you have to remember Fulham won this weekend, and that could put a bit of a fucking spark in their step, Sheffield's step. So I wouldn't look past West Ham, but an upset with Sheffield right now is kind of like a dog backed into a corner. Its teeth, the fangs are out, smells blood. It's going to go for anything and everything. And if they can somehow revert to how they played last season, get glimpses of that, safety could be in sight. And I'll just quickly, yeah, Chelsea, Newcastle. Tuchel's got him playing well, man. Tuchel's reinvented that Marcos Alonso. He's reinvented Callum Hudson-Odoi in the space of 3-4 weeks. You know,
yeah.
um, and he's playing Mason Mount. You know, you could call Tuchel Mason Mount's stepfather, or the father who stepped up. But I didn't think he'd play Mason Mount. I thought he wasn't up to scratch for Tuchel, but fair play, man. So again, Chelsea beating Newcastle, who are also playing very well, Sham. Don't forget, because they just got this new attacking kind of first team coach, Graham Jones, who's been all over Europe. We talked about him briefly a few videos ago. So I'm going to go for draw for that, but I think it'd be an interesting game. But I think Newcastle could get a point out of that game.
If if the results go the way that you say, Liverpool will drop from fourth to sixth. So
Yeah,
that yeah,
there's going to
that'd be free. That's just I don't know how to
yeah,
process that. Like
yeah.
you
It's a
just
weird
wouldn't
one.
think that would happen.
Actually, I just before we finish, I don't mind. I'm just gonna just expand on a point that I watched the kickoff. Which game was it that I watched the kickoff for? The City Spurs game. I was watching the True Joy kickoff, and the Liverpool fan there, Lawrence. He had a good point. He described it very well. He said Liverpool fans haven't really come to terms that they're fourth, or maybe the team hasn't come to terms with fourth. It's like not just Liverpool fans. I mean, footballing fans. It's kind of a cognitive dissonance that they're so far behind with Man City with points in hand because the success was it skyrocketed so quickly. Champions League second, win the league, never really got a parade, never really been seen as champions in the streets and the parade and all that. I do feel bad for them.
It was genuinely unbelievable what they did last season.
Oh
How in the
yeah,
world do you win 26 out of 27 games? And even that
yeah,
draw was kind of a win because they came from 1-0 down and drew and all over
yeah,
United.
yeah.
And like it's just because that in itself was unfathomable. And then the drop is unfathomable as well. So if you're a Liverpool fan, you just whoa, what the
And I
fuck is going
and
on?
I think Liverpool fans haven't even come to terms that they've won the league because they wrongfully, excuse me, never had their parades because of COVID and all that, and then they're going to lose it this year, and they're never going to have that. And I feel terrible for them. And this kind of cognitive dissonance now, where we're fourth, we may not get Champions League with 10 points, or just really quickly, what is it, Sean? It's 10, 13, potentially 16 points behind City. Like, is it happening again? Like, are we going to go through the cycle again? I know they won't. I don't think they will. And I really feel
They will
bad for
not.
them.
They will not have a good finish to the season. I think Liverpool.
Yeah,
I think they can still get the Champions League spots. I still think like they're 6 points behind United and Everton, Leicester.
yeah,
Sorry, and
yeah.
I am starting to question whether they could crack second or third. They could go on a run, but I think Fabinho coming back is really important. I think the longer he's out, the lesser chance Liverpool have of getting into that sort of second or third. If he comes back, say next game, I'd still think that they could do it. I think he's a very important player for them.
And
But yeah, I think that there will be an element of them trying to get ready for next year.
the last thing Liverpool needed right now was honestly a Chelsea side that has a new manager bounce. That's the last thing they needed, because Chelsea now could go on a run and just get enough points, and that same bounce that United had to pip Leicester with Bruno Fernandes, that's the same bounce that Chelsea might just have to pip Liverpool.
Chelsea beat Newcastle, they're 4 points off second.
Yeah.
If they beat Newcastle, they really should be gunning for second.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway,
not the title though.
No, that's United's. United's gonna win. No. So, okay, I get it. It took me a second there. Fuck you. I said United would come second, though. I did say that. You always fuck me with that. All right, and so anyway, so we'll have a video out later. You just completely threw me off there. All right. Anyway, crazy weekend of fixtures. Liverpool losing, United dropping points, Man City marching on. For me, I think Fulham, if Fulham make a great escape, it would be amazing, genuinely, the way they started. I don't think Sheffield will, though. So, crazy weekend. Another video to come. Sham, do you have any closing thoughts before we go?
No, I think we covered it.
Crazy
results for Fulham, though. Kudos for them for beating Everton away as well. Yeah. I don't think the bottom three are going to change, but like I said, a team could just stop getting points from here and just go into a tailspin. But you'd expect the bottom three to stay where it is.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're the 5-Yard Pass. My name is Suddy. This is Sham. Keep football simple, and as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.